Hello everyone, welcome to EVTN News. Um, Still getting set up here. Alright, so did any of you go to World Francis Day in Portugal? I'm not going to talk a lot about that. I think there's a few articles and then I just kind of gave up. Francis says that seminarians should be normal people who don't study doctrine and play soccer. So, you could have gone to Qatar. In December? I think there was the World Cup in December. And you could have gone there and found a lot of really good seminarians. Well, I mean, Francis Church seminarians, and actually a lot of them supported LMNOP because they had these. I guess there's some of the soccer teams from the more leftist countries. They had some rainbow stuff. I don't know. Because apparently it's banned in Qatar, but not in the Francis Church. And he did give some very ambiguous airplane interviews. Alright, so World Youth Day organizers recommended on their website to visit a synagogue, mosques, and a Hindu temple in Lisbon. Among the events is a ceremony entitled Tree Planting for Religions on August 2nd to represent harmony and the difference between the great religious traditions of humanity. Pilgrims are also urged to give up meat for a year to offset their so-called carbon footprint to be the most sustainable World Youth Day yet. But you can eat meat on Fridays. That doesn't say that there, but I don't know. At the same World Youth Day, there was a daily mass in the traditional Roman Rite. So, could have gone there. All right. And there were, there was a photo that was circulating, lots of photos actually. Eucharist stored in, so the tabernacles were like plastic storage containers, storage boxes, whatever, storage bins. And there were cereal bowls that held the Eucharist. It looked like there was plastic wrap over top, but I think it was one of those like plastic lids actually. So the bowls were distributed to co-presiding priests on August 31st. July 31st, my apologies. And the IKEA barcode was still on them. And according to infovaticana.com, they were chosen by church authorities to convey a message of humility and simplicity. I'll tell you what's humble is treating the Eucharist like the Eucharist. That's a humble way to do things rather than try to pretend like you're going to try to fake humility. Anything else? Music. Rock concerts. There was a priest doing he was like dropping techno beats for like rave music. Anything else? Anything else odd? The final day, so they said there were like 400,000 people there, and then the final day they had 1.5 million, and everyone was thinking like, how did the numbers like change that drastically? I mean, that doesn't really happen. So I don't know if a lot of people just came out the last day or what, but anyway, throw that memory away. Next World Francis Day is in South Korea, and I don't know how many years, 5 years maybe, but hopefully they end it by then, and hopefully there's a new pope. All right, so getting to the more important thing, because let's forget about that. Honestly, forget about it. Just throw it away. What would be really cool is if they had a traditional Catholic Day with 500,000 people, like a World Traditional Catholic or World Catholic Day, where millions of traditionalists showed up, and they had a Latin Mass. And they wouldn't distribute public communion. All right, so from August 1st, Bishop Strickland tweeted, "Christ is a vine. The traditional Latin Mass is rooted in the vine, robust with truth, and bears much fruit. Any attempt to sever the traditional Mass from the Church is an attack on the unbroken link to tradition as received from the apostles and an attack on the deposit of faith." So how long till he gets canceled? A few months, maybe? He's starting to post better and better things. And actually, it was pointed out to me that this is similar to what Archbishop Lefebvre said back in the day. So there you go. There you go. There's always hope. Going to another bishop who doesn't want to be a bishop. Retired Bishop of Albany, New York, who's facing allegations that he both covered up and personally committed sexual abuse, announced Tuesday that he married a woman in a civil ceremony. Bishop Emeritus Howard Hubbard, age 84, made headlines last year after he announced that he asked the Vatican if he could return to the lay state, claiming he is not able to function publicly as a priest because of abuse allegations. The Vatican denied his request to return to the lay state in March. In a statement last Monday, Albany Bishop Edward Scharfenberger said that Hubbard remains a bishop and that his so-called marriage is invalid. He added he is not permitted to represent himself as a priest or perform the sacraments in public. Basically, Hubbard is asking for laicization and obtaining this civil marriage. The likely result is for him to be laicized, so he's basically going to get what he wants. But that doesn't make his marriage valid. However, this is the problem you run into. This is the problem you run into with all these legal things. But if you believe that once a priest, always a priest, then laicization is fake. Sort of like McCarrick. He was ordained. And laicizing him, I mean, it's more for status, laicization. But they're still a priest. Let's not pretend that they're not. Anyway. All right. Rainbow Bishop. Speaking to the tablet in a recent interview, Archbishop Malcolm McMahon of the Archdiocese of Liverpool, England, gave his thoughts on some of the most controversial and heavily promoted aspects of the Synod on Synodality, possibility of married priests, of female deacons, and an unspecified form of greater inclusion of LMNOP couples is currently on the agenda. In regards to married priests, he said, "It's not really a yes or no," and mentioned the aspect of married former Anglican clergymen who are now already serving as Catholic priests. Yeah, I don't really like that. In regards to LMNOP activity, he said, "Well, what they do amongst themselves for all people is very much down to the couple, isn't it? I mean, the Church points the way to Jesus Christ, and during my own ministry as priest and bishop, I've never spoken on this topic at all. But practically I've included, when I was a parish priest a couple of occasions in the past, I always included LMNOP people in the life of the parish, taking posts of responsibility, not because they were LMNOP, sure, but because they knew what they were doing. I've never really asked anyone what their orientation is." Okay. In regards to women deacons, he said, "I think there's a possibility there, just as the Pope does," which is heresy. He said, "Ordination in the Church is really about taking responsibility, and the gift which we pray for in ordination is the grace of service. That's the gift which the deacon receives. Now women serve the Church in many, many ways, so that's what I think. There are many Catholics, including the Holy Father, who want to get to the bottom of this question. The bottom of the question has already been definitively answered time and time again. And it's no, and so don't ask the question. Don't even ask." He said, because the deacon, when you take his ministerial functions down to the basics, can actually do no more than a layperson. What does that say about the Novus Ordo Church? The deacon is basically nothing more than a glorified layperson. If you go to the traditional Roman Rite, they do a little bit more. And also in the Eastern Rites, the deacons do more, especially in the liturgy. All right. Okay, getting back to World Francis Day, there was one more notable event, and this is positive. A dozen Catholics protested against the blasphemous LMNOP Eucharist organized on August 3rd at the Nossa Senhora da Encarnação Parish in Lisbon. James Martin was originally expected to attend, and so that's why they originally protested. The Catholics held crucifixes and prayed the Rosary. Never before at World Youth Day have the police been called in to persecute praying Catholics. They were taken out of the church and identified by the police. Now, one of the priests there is a suspended priest. He was suspended. He's very pro-LMNOP. I think Pope Francis personally told him something about the suspension being removed or some ambiguous comment. Kind of interesting. His father, Alison, Alison, I believe. So, yeah. Okay. So this is an interesting story here. This was just, well, it was just yesterday. So, St. Elizabeth of Hungary Parish, I don't actually have a script here, so I'm going to try to paraphrase this as best as possible, because it was sort of breaking news to me today. But St. Elizabeth of Hungary Parish in Cleveland, Ohio, was merged with St. Emmerich Parish. Now, St. Elizabeth of Hungary, I believe it was like an ethnic parish, and if you look it up on like Google Maps, you can see pictures of the church, and it's a really nice church. So, in the merger, St. Elizabeth remains a part of the newly merged Hungarian parish and is elevated to a shrine. St. Emmerich Church will retain its parish title, so St. Elizabeth Parish is like a subsidiary of St. Emmerich Parish. In the near future, a religious order will come and will assume responsibility for the daily operations of St. Elizabeth of Hungary Shrine with certain privileges for Hungarian Catholics. So I guess it was a Hungarian church. And, however, the religious order must be traditional, because the part of the story that I didn't mention is, because this is a shrine, the Latin Mass is going to be available here, and they don't need an extension from the Vatican. There's all these extensions that were granted, and they're going to be expiring in 2024. Extensions for Latin Mass in a parish church, that is. And they're going to be expiring in 2024, thus banning the Latin Masses in these parish churches, which the Vatican granted extensions, 2-year extensions, and now they're going to be expiring, and they're going to say, oh, well, sorry, you need to get in line with the new doctrines of Vatican II and new doctrines of the Novus Ordo, because the theology is different. Roche himself said it. Cardinal Roche, the head of the, what is he, dicastery for worship? I don't know. But he said it. He said there's new doctrines, there's new theology, and I believe him. Take him at his word, you know? So, on the website of St. Elizabeth of Hungary Church, they have a lot of documents here about like the canon law and the establishing of the shrine of St. Elizabeth of Hungary. Now, here's the establishment instructions. Having established by, granted, this is, where's the date? thought it was August 6th. Doesn't say. But this news was posted August 6th, so I'm assuming that it's effective yesterday. Having established by decree the shrine of St. Elizabeth of Hungary, hereafter the shrine, as a diocesan shrine, the promotion of the church heritage of the Hungarian people, as well as for divine worship according to the liturgical books in use prior to the reform of 1970, that is the 1962 Missalia Romanum and other liturgical texts in use at that time, and also having established the shrine as a public juridic person of diocesan right, I establish, this is the bishop, I establish by this instruction the following norms to develop the manner in which the provisions of the aforementioned decree are to be put in effect for the benefit of those whose duty it is to execute the same provisions. Okay, so let me just browse this really quick. So that's it. So he established the shrine as basically a Latin Mass shrine. And I didn't really see any other notable comments on this thing, but that was the only place, I mean, it was mentioned, oh, the shrine cannot currently be established as a parish. It references Traditionis Custodes. Nevertheless, taking into account its special purpose, it is to be considered in the Diocese of Cleveland as equivalent to a parish unless the law, the nature of things, or the explicit instruction of the Bishop of Cleveland require otherwise. So he's using, this is amazing. Okay, so he's basically like, well, it's not, it can't technically be called a parish, but it's a parish. I mean, this is great. Like, why is every bishop not doing this? Because they hate the Mass. Seriously. Do they hate the Latin Mass? If you don't, use this as a template. I mean, come on. And then it is to be considered as equivalent to a parish unless the law, the nature of things, or the explicit instruction of the Bishop of Cleveland require otherwise. So what happens is, if this shrine, if the Vatican comes down and says, oh, you can't have Latin Mass in a shrine, then the bishop's going to say, well, the nature of things has changed. So now I'm not going to establish it as a shrine. I'm going to establish it as a subsidiary parish or a vacant building that people are allowed to come in and have a Latin Mass. Like, he's going to twist. This gives him like an out in case the Vatican tries some funny business. But it's equivalent to a parish. So this is actually really great. And it completely avoids all the garbage of Traditionis Custodes and the hostile Latin Mass haters. And Bishop Strickland, it's funny, these bishops, so they're helping us out. I mean, come on, some bishops are working against us, some are working with us. And the ones who are working with us, got to give them credit. Bishop Malesic of the Diocese, Bishop Edward Malesic of the Diocese of Cleveland, Ohio. Excellent work. And he probably didn't think of this on his own. I mean, he probably had Latin Mass attendees approach him on this topic. He may have thought of it on his own, and if he did, good. If he didn't, good to whoever thought of it. I don't want to take credit away from him if that's where credit is due, so I'm not going to necessarily make that statement, but he probably didn't have the Latin Mass at the front of his mind. People probably did talk to him about it, and so you need to talk to your bishop, and I have the link in the description. Take special note of it and send these documents. They're not very long. I mean, he has several pages kind of establishing the shrine, but then it's further down. I think there's three actual documents. So there is the merging of parishes decree, establishing the shrine decree, and the shrine establishment instructions decree. So a total of how many pages here? Like five total pages amongst the three documents. No, four pages amongst the three documents. basically copy these templates, and the bishops can copy these templates, accommodate the Latin Mass community, and then they'll never hear from them again. Maybe not. I don't know. But look, we're not going to be annoying nuisances then if you give us the Latin Mass. I mean, really. Now, I don't know if these parishes offer the sacraments, the old rite sacraments. This parish, this shrine. I don't know if the priest can offer the sacraments there. I guess I'll have to find out more information on that, and if I do, I can let you know. But again, they did say a religious order will come and assume responsibility. Is it the FSSP? It might be the FSSP. So is it the Institute, like the Institute of Christ the King? This will be great. This is how you do it, guys. This is how a good bishop does it. And again, follow up with your bishops. If you have good bishops or halfway decent bishops, or you don't know. I mean, Supich isn't going to do something like this. He's more likely to cancel more Latin Masses than establish this kind of workaround. But any good bishop, any bishop with an interest in accommodating the faithful would support something like this. It's great. I'm really excited. Thanks for joining me, Didymus. It's either 26 or 27, something like that, but I doubt Francis will still be alive by then. I don't know. I wouldn't put money on it, but I wouldn't put money on either way, I guess. My mother becomes cross with me every time I point out how rainbow the Novus Ordo is. Okay. My idea of a traditional World Youth Day would be 40 hours of Eucharistic devotion followed by a high Mass. You could have a bunch of Masses. That'd be pretty cool. Like a Latin Mass tour type of thing with all the priests at their different side altars. You could assist at any number of Masses throughout the day. I mean, how great would that be? Items for sale at this traditional World Youth Day would be St. Benedict medals and brown scapulars. Yeah. Yep, St. Benedict medals. I'm a little bit of a hoarder. If you couldn't tell, I try to kind of block all the statues, you know. But a little bit of a hoarder. Let me see what I got behind me. Not a lot of stuff, but like, I don't know. Yeah, like a St. Benedict crucifix. There's some pretty good stuff. Yeah, it's pretty bad. It's at a certain point when you have stuff coming in, I still have some stuff that I need to get blessed. It's almost a little embarrassing. You should see my room. No, you shouldn't. I have a bookshelf with books on it, and then I have a floor with books on it. I need to get reading and less talking. But I mean, that's a positive note. That's a really positive note for my final story of this broadcast. And I just found out about it today, so that's pretty good. I like I said, I do hope that people present this to their bishops, because the bishops are going to give you bishop speak, but you can say, well, here's a fellow bishop, and look what he's done to accommodate tradition, and here's how he's done it. Diocesan shrine, and he established the diocesan shrine at the same time he gave the Latin Mass community permission. So it's not like, okay, oh, it's going to take 2 years, or it's going to take like 10 years to establish a diocesan shrine. I don't know. I don't think that's right. I disagree, Your Excellency. Any of the garbage like, well, we have no shrines in the diocese. We'll make one. How many parishes are you going to be shutting down? Why don't you just merge one and create a diocesan shrine out of it? And I'll tell you what, with the Latin Mass community coming in and with their money, it's going to become one of the nicest parishes in the diocese. Anyway, but we'll see. And if you happen to do that, leave a comment for sure. Let me know how it works. I'd like to see more of these shrines being established and Latin Mass continuing in the diocese. I mean, it's always nice to have bishops working with us instead of against us. Of course, we'll see what happens in October. And the following October. But I don't know. We'll see. Okay. This is EVTN News. This has been EVTN News. Until next time, thank you so much for watching. We are the laity, and we will not be silent.